The world sees your partnership with Prince and Princess of Wales as a unique job. But what do you think the nature of your job really is?
Well, the difficulty is, of course, that I dare say other people may think differently from what we do. But I think the first, most important thing, really, is that it's not so much a job.
The morning should have passed in silence, just as it had every year for nearly 3 decades. No palace announcement, no anniversary portrait, no carefully worded tribute. The date itself was supposed to remain buried beneath history, remembered privately if at all. Yet before sunrise, whispers were already moving through Kensington Palace that something had happened at Princess Diana's memorial that no one had expected. By lunchtime, those whispers had become impossible to contain. The woman standing at the center of them was not Prince William. It was not King Charles. It was Queen Camilla. Nobody watching Britain's royal family believed Camilla would willingly step into the shadow of the woman whose memory has followed her for decades. If anything, most assumed she would avoid the anniversary completely, allowing another painful date to disappear without acknowledgement. Instead, according to accounts that quickly spread among palace circles and royal observers, she quietly appeared where few imagined she ever would. What she reportedly did there left several witnesses visibly emotional and sparked one of the most heated debates the monarchy had faced in years. The question was no longer whether the anniversary would be remembered. It was why Camilla had chosen to remember it herself. The timing made the story even harder to ignore.
Long ago, so no self-respecting doctor would ever have let the situation, if the planet is a patient, reach this stage before making an intervention. Hence, the precautionary principle, which seems to me absolutely essential. And also, learning from all those indigenous people around the world who understand these issues only too well, and also understand that certain things are sacred, if you see what I mean. But
It's marked 45 years since the wedding that once captivated the world. A marriage celebrated before millions, only to unravel under the weight of heartbreak, public scrutiny, and private pain. Britain had learned to expect silence whenever that anniversary returned. Then, without warning, silence gave way to a moment that many described as impossible to predict. Those closest to the palace reportedly understood almost immediately that this was no ordinary visit. Something deeply personal had unfolded behind closed gates, and before long, the entire country wanted to know exactly what had happened. Hi viewers, if you still believe Princess Diana deserves to be remembered, no matter how many years have passed, what country are you watching from, and do you think her memory should never be forgotten? Share your answer in the comments, because every voice keeps her story alive. For everyone who has waited years to see Diana's memory treated with dignity, now is the moment to stand up. Liking this video, subscribing to the channel, and sharing this story tells the world that history should never be quietly erased. Choosing to do nothing only makes it easier for moments like these to disappear without anyone asking the difficult questions. If Diana's legacy still matters, let that support be seen today. What made the report so extraordinary was not simply where Camilla had gone, it was the day she chose to go. Palace advisors had long understood that anniversaries connected to Charles and Diana's marriage carried an emotional weight, unlike almost any other royal occasion. Birthdays could be acknowledged, national events could be celebrated, but this date belonged to a chapter the institution had spent decades trying to leave behind. Every passing year had reinforced the same unwritten rule. Say nothing. Draw no attention. Allow the calendar to move forward, as though the anniversary no longer existed. Yet this year felt different. Long before dawn broke over London, members of staff reportedly sensed unusual activity inside the royal household. Schedules shifted without explanation. Security movements appeared slightly out of pattern. No official engagement had been announced, but those familiar with palace routines noticed enough small changes to suspect something unusual was unfolding. Nobody could explain it. Nobody could confirm it. Even
why doesn't he get a proper job or something like that? And I honestly, personally believe that the whole way of one's life is part of the job. And one of the important things, I think, is that it is more than anything else the fact that one is trying to be ambassadors, I hope both of us, for this country. And the way
those responsible for managing the family's public image appeared to know very little. Outside the palace walls, the atmosphere carried its own quiet tension. Visitors drifted toward Kensington Gardens, as they often did during the summer, many stopping at the sunken garden where Princess Diana's statue stands, surrounded by carefully tended flowers. Some came because they always visited whenever they were in London. Others admitted the anniversary had drawn them there, even if they expected nothing to happen. For years, the memorial had become a place where complete strangers shared remarkably similar emotions. They arrived carrying memories of Diana that refused to fade, despite the decades that had passed since her death. Few noticed when an unmarked vehicle reportedly entered through a less visible entrance. There were no television cameras waiting, no reporters gathered outside, no photographers rushing toward the gates. If someone had planned a carefully staged public appearance, this was certainly not how it would have been organized. Everything about the visit suggested privacy rather than publicity. That detail would later become one of the strongest arguments among those who believed the gesture carried genuine emotion rather than calculated symbolism. According to accounts that later emerged from people said to have knowledge of the visit, Camilla asked for as little attention as possible. There were reportedly no speeches prepared, no official photographers instructed to document the occasion, no media advisors standing nearby, ready to distribute carefully selected images. Whatever happened inside the garden unfolded away from public view. Ironically, that secrecy only intensified curiosity once word began spreading beyond palace grounds. Royal commentators quickly found themselves divided. Some insisted any gesture from Camilla connected to Diana would inevitably be viewed with suspicion because of the complicated history linking both women. Others argued that time changes people in ways outsiders rarely understand. They wondered whether decades of public hostility, relentless headlines, and personal reflection had finally reached a point where a private act of respect no longer seemed impossible.
The loss of biodiversity, they're called zoonotic diseases, where you end up with these diseases being transferred from animals to humans if you erode the natural world. So we have to find a way this time to put nature back at the center, and that is the way in which, if we live in greater harmony, we can find a much more sensible form of economy.
It's fascinating what you say there, because I know that we've spoken in the past.
Neither side possessed the full picture, yet both recognized that something unusual had interrupted one of the monarchy's longest traditions of silence. Inside royal circles, speculation reportedly grew even faster. Had King Charles known beforehand? Had Prince William been informed? Was this carefully discussed between senior members of the family, or had Camilla made the decision entirely on her own? Each question produced another theory, another anonymous source, another interpretation. None fully explained why this anniversary had unfolded so differently from everyone that came before it. For Charles himself, the date carried layers of meaning impossible to escape. 45 years earlier, the world had watched him exchange vows inside St. Paul's Cathedral with a shy young woman who instantly became one of the most photographed figures on Earth. Those images still existed in documentaries, newspapers, family albums, and public memory. Time had transformed them from scenes of celebration into reminders of a relationship that became one of the most examined marriages in modern history. Whether welcomed or not, every anniversary reopened those memories for millions of people. Camilla understood that reality better than almost anyone alive.
Or if they've been deaf and dumb since birth, how they cope, and how they deal with the outside world who don't always want to know about them, perhaps.
And do you practice the language? Does the prince help you with your lessons?
Don't know if you'd understand.
Now, I know one, and that's
That.
H.
H.
You know why? Because when I had my tonsils out when I was very small, I had a night nurse who was called Sister Hicks. She always used to come in and say, Sister Hicks.
Every public appearance she made was still measured against Diana's legacy by supporters and critics alike. Every anniversary revived comparisons that neither history nor public fascination seemed willing to abandon. Palace advisors reportedly appreciated how delicate the situation remained. Even the smallest gesture risked becoming tomorrow's headline. One bouquet, one glance, one private visit could ignite weeks of debate across newspapers and social media. That was precisely why what reportedly happened inside the memorial garden struck so many observers as remarkable. Witnesses would later describe an atmosphere unlike the tense public ceremonies usually associated with royal events. There was no applause, no formal procession, no carefully choreographed protocol. Instead, there was an almost unsettling stillness, broken only by quiet footsteps and the sound of birds moving through the gardens. It was within that silence that the moment unfolded. Those present reportedly noticed Camilla pause before approaching the memorial itself. She did not hurry. She did not acknowledge anyone nearby. She appeared focused entirely on the statue standing before her, a monument created to honor the princess whose memory continued to shape Britain's royal story long after her passing. For a brief moment, according to those accounts, even experienced palace staff seemed unsure whether to move closer or simply allow history to unfold uninterrupted. Then came the action that transformed an ordinary morning into front-page news. It was not loud, it was not dramatic, yet the meaning behind it reportedly left several witnesses struggling to hold back tears. And when word of that private tribute finally reached King Charles, his reaction would prove that the anniversary Britain had tried to forget was about to become impossible for anyone inside the royal family to ignore. The silence reportedly lasted only a few seconds, but for those who later spoke about it, those seconds felt far longer. Camilla stood facing Diana's memorial without saying a word. There were no cameras recording her expression and no microphones waiting to capture a carefully chosen statement. The moment belonged only to the handful of people who happened to be nearby. According to accounts that later circulated among royal insiders, what happened next surprised every one of them. Rather than simply observing the memorial from a respectful distance, Camilla reportedly stepped closer and gently placed a single arrangement of white flowers near the base of the statue. White blooms have long carried associations with remembrance, peace, and quiet respect. Witnesses claimed there was nothing extravagant about the bouquet. It was intentionally modest, almost understated, as though designed to avoid drawing attention to itself. Yet because of who had placed it there, and because of the date on the calendar, its meaning immediately became the subject of intense speculation. One palace employee, speaking anonymously according to later reports, described the atmosphere as unusually emotional. Nobody expected conversation. Nobody expected ceremony. Instead, people simply watched. Some lowered their eyes, others looked toward the statue itself, rather than toward Camilla. Even those who had worked inside royal residences for years reportedly sensed they were witnessing something that had never happened before. Whether the tribute had been planned weeks earlier or decided only hours before remained unclear. Palace officials refused to comment publicly, allowing rumors to spread without confirmation. That silence only encouraged more questions. Was this an act of personal reflection? Was it a message intended for King Charles? Or had Camilla finally reached a point where acknowledging Diana's place in history seemed more important than avoiding public criticism? Within hours, the story began traveling well beyond Kensington Palace. Royal correspondents received quiet tips, suggesting an unexpected visit had taken place. Social media users noticed unusual discussions among people who claimed to have been inside the gardens that morning. None of the early reports contained identical details, but almost every version agreed on one point. Something profoundly emotional had happened at Diana's memorial, and Camilla had been at the center of it. The public reaction developed almost instantly into two competing narratives. Supporters praised what they viewed as an overdue gesture of grace. They argued that decades had passed since Diana's death, and that showing respect for her memory should never be seen as controversial. Critics remained unconvinced. They questioned why such a tribute had not occurred years earlier. Some wondered whether the timing had been carefully chosen to soften public opinion. Others believed genuine emotion and public responsibility could exist at the same time. That debate spread across Britain before the palace released so much as a single sentence. Morning television programs began discussing the anniversary. Newspaper editors reportedly contacted royal sources throughout the day, seeking confirmation. Comment sections filled with memories of Diana, from people who still remembered exactly where they had been when they heard the news of her death in 1997. The anniversary had reopened emotions many believed had quietly settled with time. Yet inside the palace, another development was unfolding that very few people knew about. According to reports that emerged later, King Charles had not accompanied Camilla to the memorial. In fact, several royal commentators claimed he learned additional details about the visit only after it had already taken place. If true, that detail made the story even more remarkable. Rather than participating in a carefully coordinated royal appearance, each part of the day appeared to have unfolded separately, almost organically, without the usual machinery of palace planning. Charles reportedly listened carefully as the visit was described to him. Those familiar with royal routines claimed he asked surprisingly few questions. Instead of focusing on media reaction or public criticism, he allegedly wanted to know exactly where the flowers had been placed and how long Camilla had remained beside the memorial. For a king whose personal history with Diana has remained one of the most discussed chapters of modern royal life, those reported questions carried enormous emotional weight. No official transcript exists of that private conversation, and Buckingham Palace has never publicly confirmed what was said. Even so, the accounts that circulated among royal observers painted a picture of a man confronted not simply by memories of his former wife, but by the realization that the woman beside him today had chosen to acknowledge a chapter of his past that the institution itself had largely left untouched. The emotional impact reached beyond Charles alone. Prince William, whose commitment to preserving his mother's memory has long been well known, reportedly became aware of the tribute as details filtered through palace staff. Those close to him have often described Diana not merely as a historical figure within the monarchy, but as an ever-present influence on his own approach to public life, charity, and family. Whether he viewed Camilla's reported gesture with surprise, appreciation, caution, or quiet reflection has never been publicly revealed. The palace remained silent, leaving every interpretation open to debate. That silence, however, became impossible to maintain once another unexpected detail began circulating. Several witnesses reportedly claimed Camilla had not immediately left after placing the flowers. Instead, she remained standing before the memorial longer than anyone anticipated. There were no conversations, no obvious emotion displayed for others to see, yet observers described her posture as thoughtful rather than ceremonial, as though she had momentarily stepped away from titles, headlines, and decades of public controversy. For many watching from a distance, that image became more powerful than any official statement could ever have been. The anniversary that should have disappeared unnoticed had suddenly become one of the most discussed royal stories of the year. But the most significant part of the day had still not reached the public, because what King Charles reportedly chose to do after learning every detail of Camilla's tribute would leave even long-time royal insiders stunned, and it would transform what began as a quiet memorial visit into a deeply personal family story that Britain would not soon forget. According to reports that later circulated through royal circles, Charles did not respond with surprise. Those familiar with the palace claimed his first reaction was unusually quiet. There was no lengthy discussion, no visible frustration, no attempt to shape the public narrative before it gathered momentum. Instead, he reportedly became thoughtful, almost withdrawn, as if the anniversary had reopened memories he had spent years keeping carefully locked away. The king had lived through every chapter of the story Britain still struggles to leave behind. He had stood beside Diana on the steps of St. Paul's Cathedral, while the world celebrated what many believed would become a fairy tale marriage. He had watched that fairy tale unravel beneath relentless public attention. He had endured years of criticism after the separation, the divorce, and the unimaginable tragedy that followed. Every anniversary quietly carried those memories back into the room, whether anyone chose to acknowledge them or not. This year, however, something had changed. Instead of another silent anniversary slipping unnoticed into history, the day had suddenly become personal again. Reports of Camilla's unexpected tribute had spread far beyond palace walls, reaching newspapers, television studios, and millions of people online. For some, it represented compassion. For others, it reopened wounds they believed had never fully healed. The country once again found itself discussing Diana, not simply as a beloved princess from the past, but as a lasting presence whose influence refused to fade. Royal commentators quickly pointed out something remarkable. There had been no carefully coordinated media strategy, no official photographs released through Buckingham Palace, no polished statement explaining the king's feelings or Camilla's intentions. In an age where nearly every royal appearance is planned weeks in advance, this unexpected absence of publicity made the reported tribute appear far more personal than political. That distinction mattered. Had the palace organized a public ceremony, critics would almost certainly have dismissed it as an exercise in image management. Instead, because the visit reportedly happened away from cameras, many observers believed they were seeing something far more authentic. Others remained skeptical, insisting that any story involving the royal family inevitably carried multiple layers beyond what the public could see. The truth, as so often happens with royal history, seemed to exist somewhere between certainty and speculation. While debate intensified outside the palace gates, another account quietly began circulating among royal correspondents. According to individuals said to be familiar with the king's schedule, Charles made a private adjustment to his diary later that same day. One engagement was reportedly shortened, another was quietly moved. Nothing dramatic appeared in the court circular, nothing publicly explained the change, yet palace staff allegedly noticed that the king's movements no longer followed the timetable originally prepared that morning. Nobody outside the household knew why. Only later did rumors begin suggesting where those unexpected changes had led. Several royal writers claimed Charles requested a brief visit to Kensington Palace without the usual publicity surrounding royal appearances. If those accounts are accurate, the visit was deliberately understated. No photographers accompanied him. No television crews were informed. Even some members of staff reportedly learned about it only after the king had already arrived. Whether driven by reflection, regret, remembrance, or simple curiosity, the reported visit immediately became one of the most discussed parts of the anniversary. Witnesses later claimed Charles spent several quiet minutes near the memorial gardens. Unlike official engagements filled with greetings and speeches, there were reportedly almost no words spoken. One palace employee allegedly recalled seeing the king standing with his hands folded, his attention fixed, not on the statue itself, but on the flowers that had reportedly been placed there earlier that day. No one could hear what he was thinking. No one claimed he spoke aloud. Yet those few silent moments generated countless interpretations across Britain. Some believed he was remembering the hopeful young couple who had walked into St. Paul's Cathedral 45 years earlier, unaware of the storms waiting ahead. Others believed he reflected on the mother of his sons, whose death permanently altered both his family and the monarchy itself. Still others suggested he may have been quietly acknowledging Camilla's decision to do something that many people had long assumed neither she nor the palace would ever attempt. Whatever the truth may be, those reports shifted public attention in an entirely new direction. The anniversary was no longer only about Diana. It had become a story about reconciliation with history. Not reconciliation between individuals necessarily, but reconciliation with memory itself. For decades, many believed the royal family had chosen silence because silence felt safer than reopening painful chapters. Yet silence carries its own consequences. It leaves questions unanswered. It allows speculation to grow. It gives every anniversary the power to revive emotions that never truly disappeared. This year, one quiet gesture reportedly interrupted that pattern. And as more details emerged, another surprising development began capturing public attention. People close to the memorial reportedly noticed something unusual about the flowers themselves. They were not arranged for display. They appeared to have been positioned with care, almost as though the tribute had been intended for Diana, rather than for anyone who might later come looking. That seemingly insignificant detail transformed countless online discussions. Thousands began asking the same question. If the gesture had truly been meant as public relations, why hide it from the public? Why arrive without photographers? Why leave without making a statement? Why allow someone else to discover the tribute instead of announcing it? Those questions proved difficult, even for seasoned royal analysts to answer. And as Britain continued debating the meaning behind Camilla's reported actions, one final piece of the story quietly surfaced. According to fresh palace whispers, there had been something else placed at the memorial that morning. It was small, almost unnoticed. Yet its connection to Charles and Diana's wedding day reportedly reached back 4.5 decades. If those reports were true, the emotional significance of that hidden detail would explain why so many witnesses later admitted they left the garden struggling to hold back tears. The reports centered on an object so ordinary that most visitors would have walked past it without a second glance. It was said to have been tucked carefully among the flowers, rather than displayed where everyone could see it. Those who later described the scene claimed it was intentional. Nothing about the tribute appeared designed to attract headlines. If anything, it seemed almost as though the person who left it expected it to remain undiscovered. That single detail sent royal historians searching through traditions that stretch back generations. Britain's monarchy has always attached meaning to symbols that outsiders often overlook. A flower, a handwritten note, a ribbon, or even the place where an item is laid can carry significance understood only by those familiar with royal custom. Within hours, speculation grew that whatever had been placed beside Diana's memorial was connected to one of those traditions. Several commentators drew attention to one possibility in particular. For well over a century, royal weddings have followed customs that survive long after public excitement fades. Many traditions disappear as fashions change, yet a handful remain almost untouched from one generation to the next. Among them is the quiet practice surrounding myrtle, the flower associated with enduring love and royal marriage. Though rarely discussed outside historical circles, it has accompanied royal brides for generations, linking weddings separated by decades into one continuous family tradition. That connection immediately reminded many people of Charles and Diana's wedding in 1981. Long before the marriage became remembered for its heartbreak, it began with hope. Millions watched as a young bride carried traditions that stretched back to Queen Victoria's reign. At the time, few imagined those small ceremonial details would one day become symbols far more enduring than the marriage itself. According to palace speculation, the object reportedly left near Diana's memorial may have quietly echoed that forgotten tradition. No official confirmation ever appeared. No palace spokesperson acknowledged it. Yet the rumor spread with remarkable speed. If true, it meant the reported tribute was not simply about remembering Diana's life. It was also about remembering the promise made on the day she became Princess of Wales. That interpretation changed everything. Until then, many people had viewed the anniversary purely through the lens of controversy. Charles, Diana, Camilla, years of painful headlines, public resentment, family divisions. But if the reported tribute truly referenced the wedding itself, then the focus shifted away from conflict and toward remembrance of a moment that once united an entire nation before history took a different path. The emotional response across Britain reflected that shift. Comment sections that had begun with heated arguments slowly filled with something else. People shared memories. Some remembered watching the royal wedding as children. Others recalled gathering around television sets with parents and grandparents who are no longer alive. Many admitted they still kept newspaper clippings from that extraordinary summer day in 1981. The anniversary had become more than another royal headline. It had become a reminder of passing generations. Even among those who held strong opinions about the royal family, there appeared to be broad agreement on one point. Diana's place in British history had never depended solely on her title. It rested on the compassion she inspired in millions of ordinary people. That was why every story connected to her continued attracting extraordinary attention nearly 3 decades after her death. Inside Kensington Palace, however, the discussion reportedly moved in a different direction. Senior staff were said to be less concerned with public reaction than with one practical question: who had known about the tribute beforehand? According to several royal correspondents, the answer surprised almost everyone. The circle of people aware of the visit appeared remarkably small. There was reportedly no widespread planning, no elaborate briefing, no extensive coordination between palace departments. Instead, those familiar with the arrangements suggested only a handful of trusted individuals knew enough to make the visit possible. That level of privacy made another possibility seem increasingly believable. Perhaps the tribute had never been intended to become public knowledge at all. Perhaps someone else had quietly noticed it afterward. If that were true, then the most talked about royal story of the anniversary had begun not with an announcement, but with an unexpected discovery. That possibility fascinated royal experts. The modern monarchy operates under almost constant observation. Official engagements are photographed. Private movements often become public within hours. Yet somehow, according to reports, this deeply symbolic visit unfolded almost entirely outside public view, until whispers slowly escaped the palace walls. For many observers, that secrecy gave the entire story an authenticity that no carefully produced royal statement could ever match. As evening settled across London, visitors continued arriving at Diana's memorial, unaware of everything that had reportedly taken place earlier that day. Some left flowers, others stood silently before the statue. Parents explained to young children who Diana had been and why strangers still came to remember her after so many years. It was a scene repeated countless times since the memorial opened, yet on this anniversary, the atmosphere reportedly carried an unmistakable sense that something significant had changed. Not because history itself had been rewritten, but because history had finally been acknowledged, however quietly. Still, one question refused to disappear. If Camilla had indeed chosen to make such an unexpected gesture, what had finally persuaded her to do it after decades of silence? The answer, according to fresh palace whispers, did not begin with Camilla at all. It began several weeks earlier, during a private family conversation, when one unexpected question from a young royal reportedly reopened memories that no one inside the family had anticipated revisiting. That conversation would soon reveal why this 45th anniversary unfolded unlike any before it, and why those closest to the king later described the events of that day as quietly unforgettable. The conversation reportedly lingered in the minds of those closest to the royal family long after the anniversary had passed. Whether every detail unfolded exactly as described, or whether some parts became larger through retelling, one fact remained impossible to dismiss. A date that had spent nearly 30 years hidden behind silence had once again become part of Britain's national conversation. For King Charles, the anniversary reportedly became a quiet reminder that history can never be completely rewritten. Titles change, generations grow older, new heirs prepare for responsibilities that once seemed distant. Yet certain memories remain woven into the story of the crown itself. Diana's place among those memories has never depended on official statements or palace ceremonies. It has endured because millions of people chose to keep it alive in their own hearts. For Camilla, the reported tribute carried a meaning that people will likely continue debating for years. Some viewed it as an overdue act of respect. Others remained unconvinced, believing old wounds cannot be healed by a single gesture. The truth behind her private thoughts remains known only to her. But if the accounts surrounding that quiet visit are even partly accurate, then the anniversary became something far greater than another chapter in royal controversy. It became a moment that encouraged people to look beyond old divisions and reflect on the complicated humanity behind the headlines. The public reaction perhaps revealed the most important lesson of all. Nearly 3 decades after Diana's passing, her story still has the power to unite complete strangers. Across Britain and around the world, people who had never met her continued sharing memories, photographs, personal stories, and reflections inspired by her compassion. Younger generations who know her only through documentaries and family conversations discovered once again why she remains one of the most admired figures in modern royal history. History often remembers grand ceremonies and public speeches, yet it is frequently the quiet moments that leave the deepest impression. A flower placed without cameras, a silent pause before a memorial, a private visit carried out away from applause. Those are the moments people continue discussing because they appear untouched by performance. Whether the reported tribute was intended as remembrance, reconciliation, or simply an expression of respect, it reminded millions that some chapters of history never truly close. They simply wait for the right moment to be remembered again. As Britain reflected on the 45th anniversary of Charles and Diana's wedding, many found themselves returning to a simple truth. The marriage itself may have ended decades ago, but the lives it shaped continue to influence the royal family today. William carries forward many of his mother's values. George and his younger siblings are growing up surrounded by stories of the grandmother they never had the chance to know. Charles continues leading the monarchy while carrying both its triumphs and its burdens, and Camilla, whether fairly or unfairly, remains connected to one of the most emotional chapters in royal history. Perhaps that is why this anniversary resonated so deeply. It was never only about the past. It was about memory. It was about legacy. It was about how future generations choose to remember the people who shaped their family long before they were born. No official announcement could have captured those emotions. No carefully written palace statement could have replaced them. Sometimes history speaks most clearly through silence, and sometimes a single quiet gesture, witnessed by only a handful of people, can echo far beyond palace walls and remind an entire nation that compassion, remembrance, and forgiveness are conversations that never truly end. Before we close, if you believe Princess Diana's legacy deserves to be remembered by future generations, don't just watch this story and move on. Like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share it with someone who still remembers the woman who touched millions of lives. Every share and every comment helps keep these remarkable stories alive, ensuring they are never quietly forgotten. Thank you for watching, and until next time, remember that history is often written in official records, but it is remembered through the moments that people refuse to let fade away.